let me say, I'm fine.
Yeah.
Marjorie fine.
Please allow me to say, yeah, with applause. Musique, is it just me? Or is Steve Harvey trying to contain the fallout from all those cheating allegations? Well, he has finally spoken out about the rumors that Marjorie cheated on him. And although he says his marriage is stronger than ever, I and a few others aren't buying it. In case you missed it, reports about Marjorie cheating on Steve with his bodyguard and personal chef have recently surfaced on social media. Some days, I'd even trade my man for a really good. We all know that Steve worships the ground that Marjorie walks on, so even though Steve is now denying these rumors knowing Marjorie's past, it really wouldn't be that shocking if she actually did cheat on him. I don't know about the rest of you, but I can totally see Steve forgiving Marjorie if she actually cheated. But is there any perk to that? Even if Steve is too ashamed to acknowledge that he was duped, Ruth Marjorie had extramarital affairs with his staff. Let's talk about it. Sometimes you just want to reply, but I don't have time for gossiping rumors. God be good to me. So a few media outlets recently revealed that Steve's wife Marjorie was caught cheating on him with his bodyguard and personal chef. Meanwhile, other sources claimed that Marjorie was already preparing to file for divorce and take half of Steve's fortune. These rumors are currently trending on Twitter, and if they are true, I can't say that I'm happy that Steve got cheated on because no one deserves that. However, given that Steve has been giving marriage advice for years and has never stopped boasting about how perfect Marjorie is, let's just say that I can't help but soak up the iron. Nevertheless, I can't help but marvel that Marjorie would do something like this. Not at all, because if there's one thing that people should know about Marjorie Harvey, it's that prior to redefining herself as Steve Harvey's glamorous wife, she was a player. She was busy making a living off of drug lords and trying to avoid going to jail. I know it's difficult to imagine that Marjorie was like that before meeting Steve, but the truth is what it is, so let me give you some background. When Marjorie first met Steve in 1990 at a comedy club in Memphis, he reportedly knew right away that she was the one. I came late and went down front with my girlfriend, and we were sitting here, right by the stage. So he's just quiet and he just keeps staring at me, so I'm waiting on him to make me a part of the show, so we can get on with the show, Marjorie said to herself. After a while, he finally realized that he had to say something and he said, "Oh, I'm sorry. I don't know who this is, but I'm gonna marry her." However, Marjorie needed more from Steve than just words. And even though they only dated for a short while, Marjorie reportedly dumped Steve because he was taking a little too much time. While Steve was focused on advancing his profession and between their initial breakup till their reconciliation in 2005, Marjorie wasn't wasting any time. Marjorie twice married and divorced from drug lords. She first married Jim Townsend in the 1990s, and both of them were the subject of an FBI and DEA investigation because of their suspected involvement in illegal drug operations. According to one report, Jim was told by investigators that Marjorie would be arrested if he didn't cooperate, and even though he seemed to work with them to protect Marjorie, he ended up getting the short end of the stick and was sentenced to life in prison, which he served for 26 years, before President Obama pardoned him in 2017. Marjorie, in the meantime, had already moved on and had married Darnell Woods after divorcing Jim when he was still incarcerated. Jim's distant relative who dealt drugs. We do know that Marjorie reconnected with Steve in 2005, and since he was already well known, she decided he was a much better fit for her than Darnell. Marjorie and Darnell had one child together, Lori. Although not much is known about Darnell, some reports suggest he's still in prison. It is also unclear when exactly Marjorie and Darnell separated. Following their 2007 wedding, Steve and Marjorie welcomed their first child together, a son named Broderick Harvey Jr., and adopted Marjorie's 3 children from her previous 2 marriages. However, Steve had baggage of his own, having previously been married and divorced twice and fathering 4 children from his first marriage to Marcia Harvey. Marcia claims that Steve abandoned her and their 2 daughters when she was expecting Broderick. According to reports, Marcia also had suspicions that Steve had cheated on her with Mary Shackelford, his second wife, and Mary eventually accused Steve of having an affair with Marjorie. After Steve and Mary reconnected with Marjorie in 2005, they filed for divorce. Mary later claimed that Marjorie had persuaded Steve to sever all contact with her and take Winton away. Steve and Mary were married in 1996 and had one son, Winton. In addition, Mary accused Steve of being unfaithful and said it was unsettling how quickly he moved on from her to Marjorie. What's even more unsettling, though, is that Mary said Steve took Winton and turned him against her. She also said that Steve, ostensibly at Marjorie's advice, used his wealth and connections to manipulate the legal system, leaving her essentially homeless and broke. He took my son from me, turned my son against me, and had me kicked out of our house. Mary recently criticized Marjorie for manipulating the situation and turning Winton against her, which prompted fans to accuse Marjorie of being evil. I just don't see how Marjorie, in particular, can call herself a mother to her own children and purposefully try to destroy my relationship with my son. I know that, as a mother, if I was ever in a position to have to be in charge of somebody else's child, I would definitely make sure they had a great relationship with that child. Marjorie also allegedly convinced Steve to pay the tabloids to portray Mary as crazy, so in case Mary started speaking out against her and Steve, nobody would believe her. And that's exactly what Steve did. And he started accusing Mary of being vindictive and using Winton to get back at him. See ya. Know the truth, God, in your mix. I know the truth, but the matter is the part that's hurtful in here is my wife and children had to be drugged into this. Oh, if you're gonna be vindictive, then go ahead. Me? And just aim it at me. But my son is coming in the room crying. And that's also personal. So why you would do this? But despite Steve trying to play the victim, the public mostly sided with Mary due to Steve and Marjorie's shady history of cheating and manipulation. And by this time, fans had already started telling Steve that sooner or later karma would catch up with him, and many of them predicted that Marjorie would end up beating him at his own game. See, after he married Marjorie, Steve started giving out unsolicited relationship and marriage advice despite his 2 failed marriages and multiple cheating allegations. In 2009, Steve published Act Like a Lady, Think Like a Man, a self-help book that targets single women and gives them advice on how to get a man to commit. And the book is rooted in Steve's belief that men are very simple creatures, primarily motivated by their financial status and easily manipulated by women who know how to think like they do. In the book, Steve presents marriage as the solution to all problems that women face, both single women and those with boyfriends. And he claims that insisting on setting a wedding date early on is the only way to get a man to stick around, but it looks like Steve forgot to write a chapter on how to get a woman to stick around. Because of these recent reports about Marjorie cheating are true, then this is beyond embarrassing for Steve's life and soul, and this might be the reason Steve now appears to be doing damage control and trying hard to squash the rumors about Marjorie's affairs. While speaking at a recent business event in Atlanta, Steve addressed the viral reports that Marjorie had multiple affairs, and he claimed that he and Marjorie are fine and also blasted fans for spreading gossip about his marriage. I've always loved my people, the Black people, and I believe that you all belong to me as well. Music, just to be clear, I'm attempting before I go any farther. Happiness, music. Okay, but Steve choosing to address these rumors like this got fans talking even more, and many of them are saying Steve sounds like he's trying a little too hard to convince himself that his marriage is fine. One fan said he's hurt and embarrassed. I believe what he said on stage was done to make him look strong in front of people. I agree, it's nobody's business what's going on in his life though. But he seems to love that woman more than she loves him, and to have a friend he employed for years to do what he did with his wife had to sting money could pay the bills. But it still can't stop a heart from being broken and needing time to heal. And another fan added he's gonna say whatever because he knows that his money got that woman and not him as a person. He knew what he paid for. But how do you all feel about this? Do you think Steve is telling the truth about his marriage being fine? Or is he lying to himself and us? Let me know what you think in the comments and make sure to click on this next video for more celeb tea.